would you say for him to stay in San Francisco or head to Pittsburgh and have Russell Wilson thrown to him?
There's better food, there's better weather, there's better sights, there's better quarterback, there's a better offensive mind drawing it up in San Francisco. Better chance to win right now in San Francisco. It depends on what matters to him. If he wants his value represented in the bottom line, that check hits every month, then he's got to go to Pittsburgh. They're going to pay him what he feels like he deserves, and quite frankly, what he does deserve. But you got to be careful here because Kyle Shanahan has proven he can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. Took that man to a Super Bowl, right? He's proven he can win with other wide receivers who are not commanding $30 million a year plus. They drafted the young man out of Florida, Ricky Pearsall Jr., for a reason. He's going to slide in. He can be Brandon Aiyuk light. He can be Wish.com Brandon Aiyuk if that's what they're looking for. Pittsburgh needs this man. Pittsburgh lost Deontay Johnson. They're putting a lot on George Pickens. They're putting a lot on Russell Wilson and on Arthur Smith. Nobody ever looks at their offensive coordinator change and says, you know what? We're going to be worse this year. But there's a reason to believe that with Arthur Smith. This man could not cook with Bijan Robinson, couldn't cook with Kyle Pitts, tried to win with Desmond Ridder. And for all we know, Russell Wilson at this stage might just be Desmond older, for all we know. That it could be a comparable skill set.
I really wonder about you guys. I really do. But go ahead.
Made a lot of good points.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gary. I really wonder about you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gary.
He's more valuable to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh needs this man more than San Francisco.
I'll get to you in a second. I'll get to you in a
Listen,
second.
we all remember like those posters in elementary school that hung up and were like, hey, stand up for what's right, even if you're standing alone. And I feel like, based off what you just said, it's San Francisco. What are you talking about? You said Ricky Pearsall can just go in there and lead the team in receiving? Because that's what Brandon Aiyuk did.
Did I say that? I didn't say lead the team in receiving.
You said he can slide in and be a .com
Wish.com.
Brandon Aiyuk, okay?
Timu, Brandon
Not
Aiyuk.
familiar with that URL. That's why I didn't want to say it. Brandon Aiyuk had 1,300 yards last season. Okay, the San Francisco 49ers are in their Super Bowl window, as evidenced by the last 2 Super Bowls this guy was a part of. They lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. So how could you say that taking away a top 2 target in San Francisco isn't detrimental to San Francisco? So that's like saying this.
Wait.
Let's say on the count of 3.
Yeah.
What is your best attribute? Count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Height.
Affability. Okay. And if they took either of those 2 things away from you, you are just another Randy. You're not Randy Scott Sports Center. You're just another Randy. Okay, you fall way down the list. If you take Brandon Aiyuk out of the situation he's in right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay, yes, they were a playoff team barely last year, but are they a real contender in the AFC? The answer is no. Brandon Aiyuk has a Super Bowl shot this year and the next couple while the 49ers are in their window. What are we talking about?
All I'm hearing is this man lost 2 Super Bowls. That's all I heard out of that entire diatribe. I appreciate being affable.
I was focusing on your best traits.
Yes,
He always falls back on height. Are we the tallest?
I kind of like the way y'all were
going.
going back and forth there. It was kind of impressive. I got to give credit where credit's due. By the way, you know what I'm saying? Usually I'm not this close to this woman. I'm all in her personal space because they said the lighting wasn't satisfactory enough. I needed to get to the lighting, which means you had all the lighting and I didn't. But you deserve it. But I'm just telling you, I was right here because of that.
I'm just out here trying to live.
All right, we all trying to live.
Just trying to survive.
Let's get back to the subject at hand. The answer is the Steelers. The answer is the Steelers.
First of all, he's a Steelers fan, in case you guys didn't know.
I
Understood.
Understood.
Well, I just wanted to let him in.
He did his
let him in the family secrets.
research.
Here's the deal, y'all. Seriously. You say all of those things, Randy, about San Francisco 49ers. You've been knocking on the door for a Super Bowl title. One would think you keep your pieces in place. You keep them intact. You do what you need to do. You can look at it that way, or you can look at it as you had multiple chances, multiple bites at the apple, and you didn't come up on top. But you can look at Kyle Shanahan for that. This was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons when they had a 28-3 lead against the New England Patriots and blew it. So this was the same Kyle Shanahan. Now you the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, but give credit where credit is due. Cats play under him, their numbers blow up. They end up being impressive. Deebo Samuels is under contract. Christian McCaffrey is under contract. George Kittles is under contract, okay? Brandon Aiyuk, this is his turn. 1,300-plus yard receiver, 17.9 receptions per receiving yards, per reception. Second only to George Pickens, who's his potential teammate. I'm looking at Pittsburgh, though. I'm thinking about Russell Wilson. Now, obviously, there's been some slippage. But if there's anybody that reminds you of a Russell Wilson we once praised a hell of a lot more than we do now, to Brock Purdy. The things that we used to say about Russell Wilson, we've been saying about Brock Purdy. So I'm thinking about Brandon Aiyuk making the transition from San Francisco to a guy like Russell Wilson, capable of doing some of those things that we've seen Brock Purdy does, and it's familiar territory to some degree. With Pickens on the other side of the sidelines, that's going to be helpful. A buffered offensive line. Arthur Smith, I'm not going to crucify him for the job he did as a head coach in Atlanta, because he went from being an offensive coordinator to being a head coach and really delegating some of those responsibilities to somebody else. Whereas now in Pittsburgh, he's going to have his run of the mill to some degree, just to focus on that and not having to be a delegator of responsibilities. His leadership as a head coach is what was challenged, not what he's capable of doing as an offensive mind on the coordinator side. I'm looking at those things and I'm going to say, Brandon Aiyuk, you need it in Pittsburgh. You can get your money in Pittsburgh. They don't want to pay you in San Francisco because they got to make sure all of those guys get taken care of in the next year or two. I would say Pittsburgh.
And your offseason starts sooner because Pittsburgh ain't sniffing the playoffs, even though they did last year. That is a tough
You can say that. I think Pittsburgh's going to play.
Arthur Smith offense, they value wide receiver, what? Not just catch them, blocking. So what they do? No, you got to get down. You got to get down. You know what I'm saying? You got to get right here.
Yeah. Okay. That's exactly what it wants to do.
Might be the best blocking wide receiver in football.
Yeah, because
he might be that. And in Arthur Smith's
all wide
offense,
receivers are like, let me go over there so I can block.
Listen,
Everybody says
I'm
that.
mowing what he's growing. I'm smelling what Stephen A. stepping in.
And Steelers are desperate too. I mean, Calvin Austin III, what are you talking about?
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking him. I mean, you got this cat, Roman Wilson, some guy that is considered some elite blocker. They've been talking about him in a very positive manner. In the end, what you really have is Freiermuth. You've got this cat Pickens. You've got Najee Harris in the backfield. You've invested in your offensive line. You got to get another receiver.
But if you're Aiyuk, you
Right.
should want to stay on the Niners.
Well, you should want to stay unless you feel like you're not a priority.
The NFL world is at a tipping point, and at the center of it all is Brandon Aiyuk. A rising star, fresh off a career-defining season with the San Francisco 49ers, Aiyuk has become the most talked about wide receiver in the league. But here's the dilemma that could shake the foundations of two of the NFL's most storied franchises. Will Aiyuk remain in San Francisco, a team on the brink of Super Bowl glory, or will the Pittsburgh Steelers make a bold move and bring him to the Steel City? His decision could alter the trajectory of the upcoming season, and the stakes have never been higher. San Francisco is on the verge of something special. The 49ers have been knocking on the door of a Super Bowl title for years, and Aiyuk has been a crucial piece of that puzzle. Last season, he helped propel the team to the Super Bowl with 1,342 receiving yards, earning second-team All-Pro honors. The 49ers are in their championship window with a roster stacked with talent and one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game, Kyle Shanahan. But here's where things get complicated. Aiyuk's relationship with the 49ers is hanging by a thread. He's already requested a trade, skipped voluntary OTAs, and hinted at dissatisfaction with how he's being valued. Despite his stellar performance, the 49ers have been hesitant to pay him the kind of money other elite wide receivers are getting across the league. With massive deals being handed out to players like Justin Jefferson and Devonta Smith, Aiyuk knows his worth, and he's ready to cash in. The tension is palpable. San Francisco has drafted Ricky Pearsall Jr., fueling speculation that they're preparing for life after Aiyuk. Kyle Shanahan has proven that he can win without overpaying for wide receivers. He's done it before, leading the 49ers to a Super Bowl with a mix of lesser-known talents and seasoned veterans. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and George Kittle are already under contract. And Shanahan may be ready to move forward without Aiyuk if it means keeping the rest of his core intact. But then there's Pittsburgh. The Steelers are lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce if the 49ers slip up. They've lost Deontay Johnson, and while George Pickens is poised to be their WR1, they know they need more firepower to compete in a stacked AFC. Pittsburgh is prepared to make a massive move for Aiyuk, willing to pay him what he deserves and give him the opportunity to be the focal point of their offense. For a team that's desperate to return to Super Bowl contention, Aiyuk could be the missing piece. However, bringing Aiyuk to Pittsburgh isn't without its risks. George Pickens, while incredibly talented, has a fiery personality and isn't the type to quietly step aside. The Steelers have invested heavily in Pickens, and committing to Aiyuk could upset the delicate balance they've worked so hard to create. Can Pittsburgh manage two alpha receivers in one locker room? And more importantly, are they willing to risk that dynamic for a shot at bringing in a game changer like Aiyuk? For Aiyuk, the decision isn't just about football, it's about his legacy. San Francisco offers him a shot at immediate success. The 49ers are primed for another Super Bowl run, and Aiyuk could be a key player in finally bringing the Lombardi Trophy back to the Bay Area. But Pittsburgh offers something different, a chance to be the centerpiece of an offense, to get paid what he's worth, and to carve out his own legacy in one of the most storied franchises in NFL history. The financial stakes are massive. The wide receiver market has exploded, with players like Justin Jefferson and Monterey Saint, Brown and A.J. Brown securing deals that have reset the bar for what elite receivers can demand. Aiyuk's numbers put him in that same category, and he knows it. But while the 49ers hesitate, the Steelers are ready to step in and make him an offer he can't refuse. But it's not just about the money. Aiyuk has made it clear that he wants to be valued as a champion, not just as a player. San Francisco gives him that opportunity. Kyle Shanahan's system, with all its creativity and firepower, is built to win now. But in Pittsburgh, Aiyuk would have a different kind of challenge, helping to elevate a team that's been hovering on the edge of greatness but hasn't broken through in years. It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario, and Aiyuk is at the center of it all. And let's not forget about the ripple effects. Aiyuk's decision doesn't just affect the 49ers and Steelers. It will send shockwaves throughout the entire NFL. Teams across the league are watching this situation unfold, knowing that wherever Aiyuk lands, the balance of power could shift dramatically. If the Steelers land Aiyuk, they could suddenly find themselves as serious contenders in the AFC. But if the 49ers keep him, they'll remain one of the top teams in the NFC with a real shot at winning it all. In the end, the decision rests with Aiyuk. Will he stay in San Francisco and chase a Super Bowl ring with a team that's already built for success? Or will he take his talents to Pittsburgh, where he can get the payday he deserves and become the centerpiece of a team that's hungry for a return to glory? One thing is certain: wherever Brandon Aiyuk goes, the NFL will never be the same. The clock is ticking, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The entire NFL is waiting, watching, and wondering where will Brandon Aiyuk call home.